Bedded them.
But after I stayed with the cattle that summer, well, I rode on back to school. And I rode across there. I left one morning up there.
How far was it, Henry? How far?
Oh, 35, 40 miles probably, 40.
But it was
maybe 45. But I made it. I hit a long trot. Once in a while I'd hit a slow swinging lope, but generally I stayed in a long trot because my horse would play out.
Yeah, save your horse.
But he'd go all day in a long trot.
Oh, yeah.
I'd leave there about, I don't know, daybreak, daylight. I'd get home about 12 or 1:30. Sometimes
the next morning.
1:30 o'clock.
Yeah.
Sometimes once in a while 2 o'clock. I'd ride across there horseback. Depends on how good a horse I had. If I had a good long-legged horse,
easy
and
travel.
you wanted a good lanky horse.
Yep.
These little short couple of quarter-bred horses, about a half a day you're afoot. They're played out.
Yeah.
But you take a good lanky horse,
Thoroughbred cross somewhere.
and have a little thoroughbred in him. You could go all day on him, and all these other little horses, they're muscle bound.
Yeah.
They play out. They're just better horses. And them willer tail horses.
Now explain, because there ain't nobody gonna know what a willer tail is.
Well, the Mustangs, they was mixed with good. But out between the flatheads, we had a point that run away out there, a pretty good acreage, and it pinched off to a place, little short deal across there, about 150 yards, and it had water down there.
Them horses going in there to water.
And so we had a bunch of them willer tails trapped down there. And about every 6 or 8 years, well, they'd bring a fresh stud in there and shoot that one to get fresh blood in them. And there was Papa and his 2 sisters and 2 brothers and us boys. None of them had any boys. And about every 3 or 4 years, we get short of horses. Well, we'd gather them horses. And some of them hadn't seen a man, them colts, they're wilder than hell. And we'd run them down and pin them and cut the 2s, 3s, and 4s off. And then like each one of us boys would get us a couple of horses and we'd have to break them and whatever. And then some of them older hulled out mares and them wasn't no good, they'd hire a truck to load them up and haul them to the kill house for soap factory.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to there was a trail the bulldozer built off going down in the canyon towards the home, which is about 10 or 12 miles. We'd tie a fresh horse at the top of the trail, and then we'd tie a horse down at the bottom. And then we'd be riding the horse. And we'd gather them things up and try to hold them, get to where we'd hold them. And I know the last year we run them, we had hell. And this damn stud kept piddling off out of there and squealing and raising hell, and them mares would just go right through us. We couldn't hold them. So Papa dropped off and killed him, and we finally got them back together. And there was a gray mare, and damn, she was pretty, and she could run. And she outrun everybody. And when they come back around on the rim rock, well, Papa shot her in the belly. So she dropped back in the bunch. And then the bunch stayed with her. And then we got them finally got them down the hill and got them to crowd and pinned them. And then Chester roped her and drug her out and cut her throat there. And we got them pinned. But Papa had to kill them too before we could get them pinned. And that was the last time we kept them down. And then we left. There was a few head got away from us. I don't know, like 6 or 7 head got away from us. And Everett went back up there, and when they'd come to water, he laid there and killed them. We finally got rid of all of them. But them was the toughest horses. You couldn't throw them down in a pile of rocks. They were just like a goat. They was deep-footed, mule-footed, tough. They don't make horses like that anymore. And they all had good leg and good frame. And
well, I mean,
most of them weighed 1,100 pounds.
They made a living out there. And they don't do that no more, Henry.
That last one I had is old Cutter, and I believe you could. I believe you could jerk a freight plane off a track with him. He's stout on a rope every morning.
You've heard that mentioned
Every
before.
morning.
Stout on. I mean,
The first 50, it didn't make a damn if it was 90 degrees, 100 degrees, if it was 0 or 10 below. Every morning you saddled him, you went for a bronc ride.
cold back, was he?
And I told him, I said, well, that's all right. I said, the best horse I ever rode, best on the
Pardon me,
rope,
shut
best
that
cutting
water.
cattle. And I told him, I said, well, that's all right. I'll tell you what,
Thank you, sir. That's good.
I don't mind putting up with you for 15 or 20 minutes every morning, as long as you put up with me all day. And he would. He wouldn't buck all day long. You couldn't make him buck. But that first 15 minutes is his. And if you didn't have your shirt pockets buttoned, and I had 2 other people when we'd get short of horses. Well, I can ride on. No, I don't think you can ride him. And the first one, he throwed him off. And I told him, I said, I'll never let another man ride
Hell,
that
Paul,
horse
no,
because now he knows he can throw
That's
somebody
right.
off.
That's
He
right.
knows that.
That's right.
So, anyways, old Barry, old Barry White was pretty good, and I hired him and his wife. And I told him several times he'd ride along with his horn knot on the saddle horn.
Everybody tied on.
And I told him, I said, listen,
I mean, everybody tied on.
I said, you're working for me over here. And I said, if I catch that horn knot on your saddle horn again, with that rope tied on your saddle, I'm going to fire your ass. I said, every time a horse falls, 9 times out of 10, you're going to stick your foot through the
And get drugged
through a loop.
Mm-hmm.
And then that saddle string's going to break, and that horse is going to kill you. And I'd warned him about it. And finally, I told him, I said, one more time. So, anyways, I let him ride that horse that morning. And him and my 2 boys was taking some fence east down to change pastures with
That's
him.
Shorty and
Billy. So, he loped on down the fence to open the gate. And he had his rope tied to the saddle horn. And he had a big loop hanging down, you know, like he was going along chunking. And he got off to open the gate, and his foot hung in that loop, and it jerked it over that horse's tail. That son of a bitch left like a shot out of a gun.
Oh, you know it would.
And, of course, it jerked him off his foot, and that rope jerked up around his foot. And that horse bucked through the gate, and it about half 4-footed him. And he bucked back out of the gate and bucked down the fence and bucked with him for about 50 yards and directly jerked his boot off.
Only thing that saved him, wasn't it?
That saved his life.
That's the only thing that saved him.
And I never ever let nobody else ever ride my horse again. That horse never did get over that. He remembered that.
Yeah, horses do, Henry. You
My
know
best
that.
horse I ever rode. And the son of a bitch running. Now that, well anyways, but it like to killed him. He got back to the house, and I said, well, you can stay on for 2 weeks till you kind of heal up and find you a new job.
Yeah.
He says, you mean I got to go? And I said, yeah. I said, I can't afford to keep you here. I said, you're a disaster.
Well, he don't listen.
I said, I just can't afford you. And I just let him go. And I hated to. Had a wife and them little,
Well, Henry, I mean,
prettiest little kids you ever seen. But I didn't have no choice to, you know, just the way it was. But anyways, I was on that Beck Ranch down there, Baggett and Beck Ranch, working for Ellie, U-Anchor Cattle Company then, when this all happened. And I was foreman over on the Baggett Ranch.
well, he's running 2 outfits, or 1, and then
Well, later I got, but anyways, the way it happened was, they had the Beck Ranch lease, and Garner had been on it for several years.
how big an outfit was that, Henry?
They had 4, Whitaker, Castleberry's, Baggett, and Beck was all 33,000 acres. It was split 4 ways. The old Castleberry outfit over there at, on the Pundiaba, over there west of Dalhart, between Dalhart and Nervisa. And it was split into 4 equal-sized ranches. And they put me on the Baggett Ranch, running it. And I run it for several years, and Garner was on the back ranch. And Garner he's a funny guy. I went into town to the doctor or something, and I was coming back, and I told him, I said, we'd throw some cattle over in what we called the heifer pasture. And come to the house, and they had some cattle bunched up, and we was working them cattle. We had them in a corral. I seen them cattle bunched up walking. And I told him, I said, them cattle's out of water over there in the bull pasture.
Pretty simple.
He said, like you're so damn smart. He says, how do you know that? Well, I said, they're bunched up walking for water at this time of day. I said, and they're already settled. I said, I know they're out of water.
This is why.
So the next day, it was the same thing. The third day, I said, Garner, for God's sakes, I said, I know you're running this place. And you said we're through. I'm going to go take them cattle to water. Like, he said, you're so damn smart. How do you know? I said, I can see them. And I'm not going to stand for it. I said, we're here to make this place money. So I started over there, and he come with me, and then Leroy saddled his horse and come with me, and we got over there. And there was 9 calves dead in the tub, them other cattle tromping. We turned them out and got away with them. And them other cattle, it took them 3 or 4 weeks to get over that, being without water. And that guy, he was, he was always, you're so smart, he'd tell me. You're so smart.
How the hell do you know?
And
did you not want to just whoop the...
Later on, when I finally got both deals, well,
they fired him, didn't they?
It turned cold.
That the way it was?
Yeah, it turned cold. God, it got cold. Got down to about 6 degrees, 10 degrees. And we had quite a few places. We had some irrigated circles with sprinklers on them for wheat. And we had several places we dug pits. And we'd fill them pits with a irrigation well to water them. And of course we had 2-wire hot electric fences around everything. And we'd have part of the cattle on wheat through the winter and the rest of them out on grass caking them. Because we had all year. We run them year round.
What'd they cake with, Henry?
Do what?
What'd they cake with?
We had pickups and with cake feeders on them. But anyways, I had a wetback with me, and I sent my other man in a wetback another way. We had to cut ice, and I'd been from the North Country where a lot of that. That's all there was stock things. There was no windmills. I knew what that was like.
That's right.
And old Garner, he was a flatlander. All he'd been around mostly was these windmills and stuff. He didn't know much about that. But anyways. We made a circle and come back through there, and we was come back pretty close to headquarters, and the Beck headquarters. So I swung in there. We stopped, and everybody was out at the saddle house. They had a heater in there, warm it up, and went by and asked how everybody was, how everything was going. Oh, everything's fine. I said, well, we was headed in. We just got through cutting ice. Old Garner said, well, we were just fixing to go start cutting ice, and it's about 10:30 or 11. He says, we was fixing to go start cutting ice. He says, we was going to let it warm up a little bit. And I thought, God almighty. I never said nothing. So we went on home, and about 3 mornings later, well, here come Ray Sneed by over there, and he said, Henry said,
now who's that?
Leroy Sneed. He was our boss. He was the boss over us.
Yeah, well, I just wanted the camera to know.
He says,
who?
He said, reckon you and Leroy could go help Garner after you get your doctor and stuff done? I said, yeah, I probably could. He says, well, take some long ropes, cables, or whatever, and take, big 4-wheel drive. Okay. So we went over there. I said, what's the matter? Did you drown a bunch of cattle? And his face kind of dropped, and he looked at me kind of funny, and he says, what do you mean, did we drown a bunch of cattle? I said, well, we just drowned a bunch of cattle.
Yeah.
He says, how did you know? And I says, because if you don't cut ice before 10 or 11 o'clock, and them cattle comes in the water,
it back.
and they walk out on that pond, they ain't going to get out.
That's right.
He just shook his head and walked off. And we went over there and we drug 83 head of yearlings out of that
God
pond.
almighty, Henry. You told me that, but I don't think we ever
83 head. That was a big old pond. Just because he...
Too damn lazy to...
And Sneed told me, he said, Henry, he said, that other place over there, their death loss is 5.5%.
God almighty.
And yours has been a little over 2. He said, you've made us money. They've lost us money. But he said, you've covered the loss. Over the 2, we've made money. But that place has lost us money. But you've made enough over
to make
up their loss. He said, we can't afford him. And I said, good God, I've been trying to tell you that for 4 years. I said, hell, he's costing you more money than 2 good men.
Yeah,
it cost you to pay him to leave.
Yes, yeah.
And every year he'd come up.
Yeah.
He couldn't show carcasses on his death loss. You know, he'd lose so many head, and they didn't know if they'd been stolen or died. Or
What
he couldn't keep account for them. And he called me. It was that same year. He called me over there and said, Henry, I need you and Leroy to go help out over there this morning, in the morning. He said that we've been trying to pin them cattle out of that south bull pasture, and says they brought them in and spilled them, and we had the truck sitting there. So they got them bust and spilled them again. So we had to send the trucks back to town. So we put the trucks we put the trucks on hold, and they tried to bring them in a different way, and they spilled them. I said, well, what in the hell? And I knew there was quite a few Hindu cattle in them because, you know, I'd helped straighten some of them out.
Them Brahma.
And anyways, they tried to bring them in another way, and they spilled them. So we went over there to help them. So old Garner, of course, he had to get on the point. And we bunched them up down there and started them down the fence. And them Hindu kept leaving, and Garner pulled them back, hit them back into the bunch. Pull them back, hit them back into the bunch. And that up there hit a corner, and it come down about, I'd say, 150 feet, not more than 200 feet. And there was a big double wide gate, you know, probably 25, 30 foot wide. But off of the corner. It wasn't in the corner, it was off of the corner, 150, 200 feet.
Yeah.
And
why was that, Henry? I mean,
well, he spilled them twice, sir.
I'm talking about why was the gate where it was?
That's where they put it. That's where they put it. They wanted to get tractor and a big plow through there to work on that circle up there where we had a wheat circle. So anyways, me and Leroy was behind Garner.
You always try to put a gate.
We went up to that corner, and he spilt them big time. Or his man was behind him. And hell, them cattle hit that corner and come through them just like a bunch of marbles. So me and Leroy just whooped ass and got around them.
Yeah.
And bent them, and we brought them back in the round with him and with Garner and his man in the middle of the cattle. We brought the cattle back in and tucked them back in, and held them back in there. And they finally worked around and got to us. And I said, Garner, God Almighty. I said, would you mind? I said, you've spilled them 3 or 4 times. Would you mind if I got up there? I said, I'll pin them sons of bitches. I don't mean to be cussing. I'm sorry.
Well, it don't matter. We can edit it out. Some of it needs to be left in, Henry.
It bothers me.
Well, I know.
I don't like to cuss. I know. But anyways, well, he says, you're so damn smart. And I said, no. I says, Leroy, let's go home. If that's the way it is, let's just go home.
Well, yeah.
So I started off. Well, he loped up there beside me. He said, now, damn it, Henry. He said, we need some help. I said, no, you don't need no help. I said,
listen,
you're just going to spill them again.
That's right.
He says, well, do you think you can do better? I says, I know I can. Well, he says, you're so damn smart. I says, okay, let's go, Leroy. He said, no, Henry, just take it and do with it. He says, what do you want? And I said, I want Leroy behind me, and I want you behind Leroy, and I want Tex behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, and I said, I want you, by God, to be a horseback. I said, don't you leave no slack between You and Leroy,
That's right.
and you stay up with Garner. I
That's
said,
right.
I don't want no slack there. I want it tight. When I get them down that fence, I want them
Got
tight.
to be tight. Got to.
So we got up pretty close, and them things broke, and I was riding a hell of a good horse, this cutter horse I was telling you about, and he could run like a scared rabbit. And we got, just before we got to that corner, man, I outrun them suckers 90 miles an hour, just wide open. Well, when these first ones piled up in the corners, these next ones that come by, they blowed snot in his tail and chased him right through that big wide double gate, just pretty as you ever please. We pinned him just slicker than snot. And I said, the only thing Garner, he's never had to work horses.
That's right.
And
Well,
I
you can
said,
tell that.
cattle's the same way. You cannot, 100 men can't put them through a hole if they can't see it.
That's right. They
You
got
got to
see
show them.
the
When they
hole.
seen
That's
that
right.
horse go through that hole, they knew it was there. They chased him
yeah,
to it.
Yeah.
And it,
That's just common sense. I mean,
you can't put a cow through a hole if she can't see it. I don't care
right.
if it's a blind hole.
that's right.
You can
Especially
beat her
them,
to death,
especially
and you
them
can't get
Bremer
her through
cattle.
that hole.
You
But
don't put Bremer cattle in a corner, and you don't abuse them.